You're about to watch 5 of the meanest, most badass metal riffs you have ever heard, according to non-metal ads.
Probably turn on all 3 of my distortion pedals.
I wouldn't really describe myself as a metalhead per se.
A ukulele bass on a kind of a metally track.
I realised that all those cliches are what a metal riff is.
So I challenged my buddies, my non-metal buddies, to write their meanest metal riffs, getting them out of their comfort zone a little bit, and I'm actually really excited to see what they come up with. So first up, we've got Justin Sanderco from Justin Guitar, and who didn't learn to play guitar watching his stuff? The OG YouTuber. He's such a lovely bloke, awesome guitar player, great teacher. But I'm sorry, Justin, but you don't really look like a metalhead. So let's see what you've got.
This project was a little bit more challenging than I'd first anticipated, but also actually a lot more fun. Metal definitely isn't my bag. When I was a teenager I was big into Metallica, but it kind of stopped at about Slayer, and I never really got into music much heavier than that. I decided to head down that route and stop listening to too much metal stuff and just try and dig into what I felt was like heavy and powerful. I decided to use my old SG, which is new-ish to me, and I figured it might have some riffs in it. It appears it did. For the guitar and the bass, actually, I'm plugged directly into the Kemper, but I always track with 3 different channels, the stereo pair out of the Kemper. Then I also used a DI to use the guitar rig, the Native Instruments guitar rig sounds as well. So I had in parallel these 2 quite different guitar sounds going on, which I tried to EQ and get them to sit nicely together, and I think it ended up sounding pretty fat. Interesting thing with the bass, and I just thought it was kind of funny to use a ukulele bass on a kind of a metally track, but I think it sounded amazing. I thought that was pretty fun. A very new experience to try and sit down and write like that kind of riffy thing, because it's just not my bag. But I enjoyed it so much that I'm going to work on this track and try and finish it. I might even have a go at doing another one. So big thank you, Paul, for inviting me on for this collab. There's some stellar musicians also involved with this, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what they've come up with as well. See you around. Bye.
Wow, that is killer, dude. Oh my god, amazing production, first of all. It just sounds like a record, right? That SG sounds phenomenal, beautiful guitar, and all that on a ukulele bass. I mean, the thing sounds really, really fat and full. Wow. Also, the last part, so dirty, so dirty. I like it. Thank you. And if you like that, of course, hit that thumbs up gently, even with metal. So, time to cross the pond. Canada, Canadian metal. Is there a Canadian metal band? Justin Bieber. Anyway, here's my bro Sammy G, who always has a unique view on things. But metal is literally the last thing that comes to mind when I think about samurai guitarists, the samurai of the north. And I'm super excited to see what he has in store for us. So let's have a listen.
So my friend and fellow YouTube guitar dad, Paulie D, asked me to make some metal under the guise that this video would be all about non-metalheads making metal music. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit offended. Apparently Paul missed the video where I single-handedly invented synthoid J-pop metal, but I'll forgive him this time. So here's my plan for this. I'm gonna be using my microtonal guitar here, which allows me to play the notes in between notes, because hey, what's more metal than not abiding by traditional musical norms? Diatonic musical theory? Not today, my friends. We're making microtonal metal. Why am I doing this? Well, there's a very good reason for it. As far as I know, microtonal metal is extremely uncommon. There isn't a diehard following for it. So if I totally butcher the genre, there'll be like one guy who lets me know in the comments versus hordes of angry Paul Davids viewers absolutely roasting me. I'm obviously just kidding. You guys are pretty cool. Besides the microtonalness, I don't know, I'll probably turn on all 3 of my distortion pedals, tune my guitar down to a drop D, and if when I'm mixing, there's a preset option that has the word metal in it, I will definitely be using that. You know, really, I'm just gonna be winging it here, seeing how she goes. Whatever you hear next is what I come up with.
I knew it. I knew it would be weird. Canadian microtonal metal. That's the genre we've all been waiting for. Truly amazing. Somehow it felt comforting, but also like disturbing at the same time. But playing these microtonal stuff at the lower registers, it has a different vibe than playing it higher up top when it's super obvious. Great stuff. Would listen to this 100%. Please turn it into a genre, guys. Okay, next up, after his legendary solo in 10 Guitarist improvised over the same track, I felt like I had to challenge him a little bit more for this video. So, can we crack him? He surely looks more like a Beatle than a member of Slayer, so let's see how Chris Buck handles metal.
So needless to say, I wouldn't really describe myself as a metalhead per se. You're more likely to find me listening to Sam Cooke than you are Slayer. Although that said, I went to see Black Sabbath a few years ago on their farewell tour. I was absolutely blown away. They were utterly phenomenal. So I decided to kind of use that as a reference point for this track. The first thing I did was send over a rough voice memo recording of at least a rough outline of the riff that I was intending to use to Adam Roberts, the drummer in Cardinal Black, my band, who was kind enough to put down some drums at his end on his electric kit, and then send me the Logic session file over. Obviously, the first thing I put down at my end was the bass part. Listening to a lot of early Sabbath stuff in particular, there's a lot of mid-range, top end, and of course drive on his bass sound. So when I was choosing a bass sound as well as a bass part, that was something I very much had in mind. In regards to the guitars, obviously I was kind of thinking of Tony Iommi as a reference point, not only in terms of the sound, but also trying to imagine how he might play it. In regards to the guitar tone, I was using my Gibson 61 SG reissue, running directly into Native Instruments guitar rig. The 2 rhythm parts, left and right, were bone dry, and it was principally the same sound for the guitar solo, save for a touch of extra reverb and delay just to kind of bed it into the track, and obviously that whammy effect on an octave down on that big first bend at the start of the solo. I guess overall it was nice to throw myself out of my comfort zone, however briefly, although as I said, I was very much aiming for something with a swing and a groove that I guess isn't too far removed from the type of music that I write and play ordinarily, albeit with a little bit more distortion maybe. Either way, hope you enjoy it.
Of course he can hold himself back and he needs to burst into a solo. Oh, awesome job. I would listen to this 100%. Please put this on Spotify. Thumbs up to let him put it. What I found remarkable, by the way, is that all these riffs so far are leaning heavily on groove, like groove bass, not like the typical chugga 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 chugga. There's always a little layer of blues underneath these riffs so far. I kind of like it. It's a nice synergy. Anyway, Chris, I couldn't crack you just yet. Thank you for your submission. All right, next up, Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show, the man who taught the world about tone. Always so willing to share his knowledge. Just absolutely brilliant, incredible player too, but I've never seen him do anything that just resembles metal a little bit. So metal on a strat, oh well, there's Iron Maiden. I guess it might be a challenge for him, so let's see if Mick does metal.
Hey Paul, thanks so much for involving me in this. For my riff, I wanted to avoid all the metal cliches. And then I put up a couple of playlists on Apple Music and I realised that all those cliches are what a metal riff is. So I'm in standard tuning, but the bottom string is down a tone to D. And the first chord is that power chord riff that goes from the D to the B flat. What then follows are two variations of a single note pattern using kind of semitone intervals over what I think is a 16th note rhythm. That happens on the first and third. On the second run through, I switch to a kind of triplet feel, and by adding those snare beats in between the triplets, it gives it a sort of a thrash feel, and it makes me laugh every time. On the final time, it resolves to those syncopated stops with the semitone interval. The hardest thing for me is I don't have much of a kind of metal gent type right hand, so by throwing those different rhythmic variations in there, I think it gives it kind of a metal feel. And nothing says metal feel like a crazy bass drum, so I programmed the drums first, then I did the guitars, then I put the bass down. I mic'd up 2 amps for this and used them together, a Hughes & Kettner Pure Tone 50 and a Marshall 50 watt Plexi. And shock horror, I only used one pedal, and you can see how it's set here. The guitar is this PRS S2 single cut standard. It's pretty much the most modern sounding guitar I have. I quadruple tracked it, that's to say I played almost exactly the same thing through 4 times. On 2 of them you can hear that 5th fret top string harmonic thing. That means there are 8 guitars in total, remember there's 2 amps, so they're panned all over the stereo spectrum to give it spread. There's also a Roland Dimension D plug-in on 2 of the guitars, panned hard left and right. Okay, that's it, that's my riff, I hope you like it.
Whoa! Okay, yeah, cool, I like it. All the metal cliches are in there, yes. I love the moves, it could be on stage. I love the little breakdowns. Also, did you catch the mayhem triplets, like they call it? It's the same that Justin did, by the way. He also did like the... Apparently it's a thing. It's a thing now. Thank you so much. Awesome job. I know how much effort it took to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you did great. Thank you so much. And now to the mainland of Europe, to the almighty European Union. I used to listen to prog rock quite a lot back in the day, and my riff is definitely inspired by bands like Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, I mean, yes. And when I listened a lot to that music, I wrote my music a lot in Guitar Pro, so I figured let's do the same with this riff. So I started out writing stuff and then I learned it on the guitar. So I dusted off my good old Gibson Les Paul Gothic for this. I put a set of heavier strings on it, tuned it to D standard, didn't do it for me, way too light, so I needed drop C, yeah! I used sounds from the Kemper and the Hook Wizard, used way less gain than you might expect because all these presets are just way too gainy. It lacks punch, it lacks clarity, so I dialed the gain way back. Double tracked or even triple tracked some guitar parts. And I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. So I have always been fond of rhythmic illusions in music, so where you think the pulse goes one way and suddenly the feel changes, the pulse changes. And that was definitely the inspiration for this little piece. So when you hear the intro, you think it goes one way, but then the band comes in and it's not what you thought it was. It seriously injured my neck and I have a headache from all the head banging. I'm such a metal noob. Oh. Anyway, if there's proper metalheads watching, please let us know kindly what you thought. Should we finish these riffs? Should we tweak it a little bit? Aren't we metal at all? Let us know in the comment section. Thank you, Chris, Sammy G, Mick, and Justin. Make sure to give these guys a follow and a gentle like. Links are below in the description, as always. I want to thank them for being vulnerable and showing the world that there is a little bit of metal inside everyone. I hope you feel inspired and write your own metal riffs. Use the hashtag #MetalChallenge and hashtag Paul Davids and tag these guys as well. And let me see what you've got on Instagram, on Twitter, on all. Thank you so much. Have a great day and cheers.